Hi guys, I'm Leon, and today I'm reviewing A World Without You by Beth Revis. A World Without You is a YA contemporary novel about grief, loss, and finding out which reality is true. We follow Bo, a 17-year-old boy who goes to this boarding school, and this boarding school is specially designed for kids with powers. Now, Bo can time travel, and all the kids he goes to school with have their own kind of special supernatural powers, I guess. And this school teaches them to better control these powers so they can deal with them better and live among the real world, I guess. At the beginning of the book, we find out that Sophia, Bo's girlfriend, has gone missing. We're not sure what happened to her, and this book is really Bo figuring out what happened to her and trying to get her back all the while. The book switches between Bo's perspective and Phoebe's point of view. Phoebe is Bo's sister who lives at home with her parents and goes to a regular high school, and she kind of tells us the other side of the story. She shows us what's going on at home, and I think that is very valuable for this story as well. In terms of characters and relationships, we meet quite a few. First off, we have Bo's family, Bo's mom, Bo's dad, and Bo's sister Phoebe. The second group then, of course, is the people Bo goes to school with. This boarding school is for people with special powers, as I mentioned before, and this means that the teachers want to make the classes quite small so they can pay a lot of attention to each individual student. Bo's class consists of him, Sophia, Gwen, Ryan, and Harold. Now, he has the power to time travel, Sophia has the power to become invisible, Gwen's power is pyrokinesis, Ryan's is telekinesis, and Harold is able to hear ghosts speak to him. All these different powers are mentioned many times throughout the book, and we kind of get the surface level view into how all these kids are trying to better control their powers and how they deal with it every day. The characters and relationships do stay a bit surface level though. I don't think it's a big deal because it's just a plot-driven book, I guess. But there are times in which I would have liked to know more about Gwen, for instance, because we get a view into Harold's life and we hear Ryan talk a lot about his parents, but we never get to meet them. So that's kind of unfortunate, but not in the way that this was bad writing on the book's part, but I just was curious to know more about all the other kids, I guess. What's interesting is that we don't really get a lot of insight in the relationships from Bo himself. He talks about people and he talks about his relationship with them quite a lot, but because he is going to this school, he's so engrossed in trying to get Sophia back through his time travel powers that he doesn't really pay that much attention to them. So we kind of get the family side and the relationship side from Phoebe a lot, who tells us about how things are at home and what it's like to have a brother who goes to a boarding school for special kids and what that does to her life, I guess. Quite early on in the book, we start to see cracks in Bo's logic. He tells us that he has accidentally left Sophia in another time when they were time traveling together. There is a scene at the beginning of the book that really describes a commemorative service for Sophia because the entire school believes she has died, she has committed suicide. Really, the entire book is trying to find out which of these realities is true, because it isn't that straightforward. We are in the mind of Bo the most of the time, and he doesn't know what to believe either, because first he believes that no, he's actually just left her time traveling, she's not dead, get over it, I'm going to get her back, and he is trying to reach her so much. Later on, however, Ryan with his telekinesis is really fucking with his mind, I guess, so he doesn't know what to believe anymore, and then his parents tell him a different thing, and Gwen tells him Sophia's really gone, and he doesn't know what to believe anymore. But this story is so interesting because we get to follow Bo as he really figures out what the hell is going on because he doesn't know himself, and I was really curious to see which kind of reality was real, because after a while I didn't know anymore which reality would be real, and how it would end, of course, but also if Bo was going to be okay, because he left his girlfriend in another time, or his girlfriend committed suicide. Through finding out which reality is real, we also come to know that Berkeley, the boarding school they go to, is really not a school for people with special powers, but it is a school that focuses on kids with mental health problems. Now, of course, this means that there are some trigger warnings in this book. If you are very sensitive to mental health problems, don't want to read about them at all, don't pick up this book. But it isn't that intense, I would say. Of course, suicide is mentioned a couple of times because we get told the story of Sophia as the parents and teachers believe it, but we also get a big look into the mind of someone with dissociative disorder, and that in part is just really interesting, I think. The most interesting part of this book is not essentially the plot or how it turns out, although that kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time. The most important part to me is really the insight into different people's minds and different people's realities we get through this book, and we get through the double point of view. Not only do we learn what it's like to be someone with this dissociative disorder through Bo, we also meet people with a lot of different mental illnesses as well, and we get to learn what it's like to be the one that gets left behind. We get to know what it's like for Phoebe, who lives at home with her parents trying to live a normal life while her brother is away, and she really has this feeling that she always has to be the problem-free kid, that she has to be the smart one, the carefree one, and that is really weighing on her heavily as well. So I thought that is a topic that has been handled very well. Of course, I'm not going to spoil the plot, but let me just say it has so much more bends than I expected from it. I think this book also deals with diversity well. It doesn't overdo it in the way that some books are now really trying to get gold stars for diversity. They include in there, but we have some. Sophia is Latina, and that gets mentioned quite a few times. Harold, for instance, has two dads, and Ryan makes a sucky comment about that, but the book turns it around and says, Ryan, that's not okay. So there are some diversity factors in here which I really enjoyed. I think it doesn't overdo it, but it doesn't sweep it under the rug. And yeah, I just really enjoyed this book. I think this is a very important insight in the mind of someone who has a mental illness, but also in the mind of like the backlash of having to be the good kid all the time. And I think it is a very fun, page-turning story that will give you more insight in other people's realities, and that is just a very important thing to get. I hope you enjoyed this review. I gave A World Without You 4 out of 5 stars, and it is definitely one of my new favorites. I hope you pick it up. If you have read it, let me know what you thought, and I will speak to you guys soon. Bye.